Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our English Learning podcast. I'm Jennifer, and as always, I'm here with my fantastic co-host, Elizabeth. How are you today, Elizabeth?
I'm doing great, thanks. Today's topic is especially exciting. Would you rather time travel to the past or the future? It's another great way for English learners to practice their vocabulary, especially when it comes to discussing hypothetical situations and imagination.
Absolutely. Time travel is such a fascinating concept, and it gives us a lot of opportunities to use descriptive language. Whether you'd prefer to explore the past or jump into the future, this discussion will help you learn new words and phrases that you can use when talking about possibilities.
And as always, we encourage our listeners to take notes, listen carefully, and try using some of these new phrases in their own English conversations. It's not just fun, it's a great way to build your language skills.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't yet. This way, you'll always know when a new episode is out, and you can keep improving your English.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a rating and share it with your friends who are also learning English. We appreciate your support.
Now, let's dive into today's topic. Elizabeth, how would you explain time travel to the past and to the future?
Great question, Jennifer. Time travel to the past means you would go back in time to an earlier period. Imagine visiting a different historical era, meeting famous figures, or even seeing your own childhood from a different perspective. On the other hand, time travel to the future would mean you get to jump forward in time. You could witness futuristic technology, see how the world has changed, or even meet your future self.
Exactly. Both options have their own unique appeal. Traveling to the past could be a way to learn about history firsthand, while visiting the future would let you experience things that haven't even happened yet. But there are also challenges that come with each choice.
That's true. For example, traveling to the past could be risky. You might accidentally change something important, or you could feel out of place in a different time. And traveling to the future might be overwhelming because you wouldn't know what to expect. Plus, it might be hard to come back and live in the present after seeing what's ahead.
So, let's start by discussing the advantages and disadvantages of traveling to the past. What do you think, Elizabeth?
Well, one of the biggest advantages of time travel to the past is that you could witness historical events up close. Imagine seeing ancient civilizations, learning about the past directly from the people who lived it, or even getting to see important moments in your own life from a new perspective. But on the downside, you could accidentally change something that alters the course of history, or you might find it hard to fit into a time period with different customs and technology.
Yes, and while it might be incredible to see history unfold, you'd have to be very careful not to interfere. The idea of the butterfly effect, where small changes in the past could have huge consequences in the future, is something to keep in mind. What about the future, Elizabeth? What are the pros and cons of traveling there?
One major advantage of traveling to the future is that you'd get to see how the world has evolved. You could discover new technologies, find out how society has changed, and even see how your own life turns out. But there are some drawbacks too. For one, you might not like what you see. The future could be very different from what you imagined, and it could be difficult to return to the present knowing what's ahead. Plus, you might not understand the future's customs or technology, making it hard to fit in.
That's so true. The excitement of seeing the future comes with uncertainty. What if it's not what you expect? Or what if it's difficult to adapt? Both options involve some risk and a lot of unknowns.
Absolutely. So, Jennifer, if you had to choose, would you rather travel to the past or the future?
That's a tough one. I think I'd rather travel to the past. I've always been fascinated by history, and I'd love the chance to experience ancient cultures and meet famous historical figures. Plus, I think it would be amazing to see how different the world was in previous centuries. What about you, Elizabeth?
I think I'd choose the future. I love the idea of exploring what's ahead, seeing new technology and how people live, and maybe even discovering if some of today's mysteries have been solved. It would be exciting to witness what happens next.
Those are great reasons, Elizabeth. It's so interesting to think about how different people might choose based on their interests and personalities. And for our listeners, this is a great chance to practice expressing your own opinions in English. Think about which option you'd choose and why, and try explaining your reasons in English.
Exactly. It's a great way to practice not only your vocabulary but also your ability to discuss hypothetical situations. Whether you choose the past or the future, think about the advantages, disadvantages, and how your choice reflects what you value.
Yes, and while you're thinking about your choice, let's hear from one of our listeners. We have a caller who wants to share their thoughts on whether they'd prefer to time travel to the past or the future. Let's take the call. Hi there. You're on the air with Jennifer and Elizabeth. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Elizabeth. My name is Lucas, and I'm calling from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I love your podcast, and I wanted to join today's discussion about time travel.
Hi, Lucas. Thanks for calling in. We're excited to hear your thoughts. So, if you had to choose, would you rather time travel to the past or the future, and why?
I think I'd choose to time travel to the future. I've always been curious about what the world will look like in 50 or 100 years. Will we have flying cars, or maybe even live on other planets? It would be fascinating to see all the technological advancements and how society has changed. Plus, I'd love to see what my own future looks like. Maybe I'll be living in a totally different place or doing something unexpected.
That's an excellent point, Lucas. The idea of exploring the unknown and discovering all the new things that might be waiting for us in the future is definitely exciting. Is there anything that worries you about traveling to the future?
Yes, I think it could be overwhelming to see how much the world has changed. It might be hard to come back to the present knowing what's going to happen, especially if some of the changes aren't positive. But overall, I think the excitement of discovering new things outweighs the risks.
That's a great insight, Lucas. It's true that the future is full of unknowns, and while it might be exciting, it could also be a bit challenging. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you both. I really enjoyed the conversation. Have a great day.
You too, Lucas. Thanks again for calling in.
That was such a great call. Lucas had some really interesting points about the appeal of traveling to the future.
Yes, it's always fascinating to hear different perspectives, especially when it comes to a topic like time travel. It really shows how our choices can be influenced by what we're curious about or what we value in life. And for our listeners, this is a great opportunity to practice talking about your preferences in English. Think about what your choice says about you and how you can explain that in a conversation.
Definitely. And before we wrap up, let's do a quick review of some of the key vocabulary we've used today. We talked about time travel, advantages, disadvantages, preferences, and hypothetical situations. These are all useful words when discussing imaginary scenarios or making choices.
Yes, and we also used words like overwhelm, excitement, and risks, which are important when describing feelings about the unknown. Remember, practicing these words in your own conversations will help you get more comfortable using them.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. We've got more exciting episodes coming up, and we'd love to continue helping you improve your English in fun and creative ways.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, please share it with friends who are also learning English and leave us a rating. Your support really helps us keep creating new content.
So let's recap today's discussion. We talked about the idea of time traveling to the past or the future, explored the pros and cons of each choice, and heard some great insights from our caller Lucas about why he would choose the future.
Yes, and we also encouraged you to think about which option you would choose and why, using the vocabulary and phrases we've discussed today. Remember, learning a language is all about practice and having fun with the process, so keep exploring new ways to challenge yourself.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep practicing, stay curious, and remember, you're doing a great job on your English learning journey.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care and keep working on those language skills.
Bye for now.